name is Julian, but you may know me as ObsidiusFan, because apparently my 10-year-old self thought it was going to be a great idea to name my entire YouTube channel after some obscure kaiju from a shitty Godzilla video game. I'm so sorry about that. Indeed, you read the title correctly. This is going to be the final video I make for YouTube, at least on this channel. I don't want to go in depth as of why I'm retiring from ObsidiusFan, because I already made an entire unscripted video explaining that on detail, and I will explain it again at the end of this one. As for now, I just wanted to say that for this occasion, this video is going to be extra special. So today I want to talk about one thing and one thing only: freaking video games. If you're watching this and you follow my channel, chances are you love video games as much as I do. Some people are inspired by music, others are inspired by cinema, but I was inspired by video games my entire life. I know it sounds silly, but there's so much I did with video games, many great stories I went through, many worlds I visited, and just so much fun I had with them. It's awesome! Gaming has changed me as a person and helped me a lot during my life. I know this is some cheesy crap that everybody says when they try to make a very personal video, but I can't help it, it's just the truth. Seeing how video games were the reason I created this channel in the first place, and the reason I know what I want to do with my life now. Back in 2012, I decided that I wanted to create this YouTube channel in order to post content about video games. Well, content that wasn't some generic let's play. So I guess I decided to post generic top 10 list instead. And today I'm ending this journey with a very simple topic: my 5 personal favorite video games. Now notice the lack of the word top in the title, because these are not in any particular order, these are just 5 video games I really love for different reasons. I was originally going to make a bigger list, a top 10 or maybe even a top 15, seeing how this is my final video, but after months of changing stuff, I settled down on just talking about 5 games. This way I can really go in depth about each one and why I have some special connection with them, what impact they had on me, and what they mean to me, without having to worry about making a 2-hour-long video. Who would like to see that? But since there's a lot of titles I had to leave out, I wanted to pay some respect to them with some very good honorable mentions. I love those games with passion, so you know the next 5 following ones are something really special. Yes, this will be one per franchise, but if there's another game from the same series I enjoy almost as much, I will mention it. So, without further ado, here's my final video, my 5 personal favorite video games in no particular order. Let's get started. Ooh, I'm going to miss saying that. Wow, 20 years of Pokémon. I love this franchise a lot, but I've always been hesitant to talk about it on my channel. I feel like it's such an overdone topic on YouTube that I really didn't feel like adding more Pokémon videos to the site. I did occasionally find one or two unique topics that I made into some decent videos, but I never really showed how much I love this franchise in the past. After the lackluster 6th generation, the new Pokémon Sun and Moon kinda revived my passion for Pokémon, and it made me remember all the great times I had with this franchise. And while I have been a fan pretty much since I was a baby, there are two games that really resonated with me and made me the hardcore Pokéfan I am today: Black and White and its sequel, Pokémon Black and White 2. If you remember an old video about my favorite games I made back in 2013, you may know that I once considered the Generation 5 Pokémon games to be my all-time favorite video games. Sadly, I don't feel that way anymore, but I still felt like talking about them in this video because, come on, they are extremely solid Pokémon games and I still love them a lot, they are so much fun. I always hated how much flack Generation 5 gets because of stuff like, oh, it has the garbage Pokémon and the ice cream Pokémon, it sucks, duh. What the fuck was that? The original Black and White was a breath of fresh air with over 156 new Pokémon and no old ones to be found, so you were forced to work with what you had. And luckily for you, you had some of the most memorable and creative monsters the franchise has to offer. Some of my favorite Pokémon come from this generation, including all 3 starters, Crocodile, Zebstrika, Darmanitan, Hydreigon, Scolipede, Excadrill, Haxorus, Galvantula, Carracosta, Archeops, Zekrom, Reshiram, and oh my god, so many good Pokémon! While Black and White didn't change much in terms of game mechanics, they went all out with everything else. Both the sprites and the 3D models in the environments have a lot of life to them. The music is freaking beautiful, the best one in the franchise in my opinion, and they actually try to tell a complex and clever story for a change, with N and Team Plasma actually questioning why Pokémon fight each other alongside humans. This was one of the first emotional stories in a game I ever experienced, so I must admit I have a soft spot for it. The dilemma is intriguing and the characters are extremely memorable. I love N personally, and Bianca, she's so cute. Pokémon Black and White was already the ultimate Pokémon experience for me, but a few years later we got a sequel. Not a third version of the same games with a bunch of new features, no. We actually got sequels in the form of Black 2 and White 2, and they were even better. These games are set 2 years after the events of the first one, and it's so refreshing to see how the Unova region has changed. New locations, new gym leaders, better music, better graphics, and even a continuation to the story of N, Ghetsis, and Team Plasma with some intriguing new characters like Colress and some great new moments. Yeah, you could find older Pokémon from the get-go, but all of the epic Gen 5 Pokémon were still there, so it's fine. And let's not forget that Black 2 and White 2 has my favorite battle facility of any Pokémon game, the Pokémon World Tournament. Battle Frontier? Nice try, but you were not even in the Gen 3 remakes. Battle My Son? Ha, get that shit out of here. Battle 3? Nice try, but none of these will ever compare to the epicness that is the Pokémon World Tournament. I've always loved gym leaders and champions, so having a super challenging tournament where I can face every single one of them from any generation was just so damn epic and entertaining, and I always come back to it from time to time. At the end of the day, this is one of the reasons I love the 5th generation of Pokémon so much. It was just so replayable that I spent hours in both games, training, catching Pokémon and battling for every single optional mode it had. Even the battle subway was fun, sort of, and I am not a person who usually spends hours playing a video game like it was a drag, so you know these were two very addictive games, or maybe it was just me, I don't know. So we have an addictive couple of games with impeccable presentation, an emotional and memorable storyline, tons of bosses to fight, and over 150 of the best Pokémon the franchise has to offer. I am glad to say that both Pokémon Black and White 1 and 2 still are some of my favorite games of all time after all these years. While I didn't really need to have a personal connection with them in order to say that, I still have something, so here you go. You see, I used to be a Gen 1er. Despicable, I know. So, the Gen 5 games not only made me into a real Pokémon fan back again, but it also was a big part of why I befriended some of my best and closest friends to this day. It helped us bond together a little bit. We used to spend a lot of time back in school talking about Pokémon, and I still have good memories of battling and trading with them. Something we still do to this day, but you know, with Generation 6 and 7. And really, that's what Pokémon is all about. That's right, I'd made most of my best friends back in high school because we talked about Pokémon together, mainly the 5th generation. If that makes me and my friends sound like complete losers, well, that's because we are. What, are you even surprised? Did you even take a look at my channel? I've never believed in the existence of the perfect video game. Every game has its flaws, whether they are big or small. This is not inherently a bad thing, that's just the reality of media in general. But if you were to ask me which game I played is the closest to perfection, I would have to answer with Metal Gear Solid 3, Snake Eater. I am so happy I got into this franchise in recent years because Metal Gear truly is one of the craziest yet most clever video games out there. I played Sons of Liberty first, and while it was a very solid game, it didn't quite click with me at first. Maybe because I didn't play Metal Gear Solid before that one? Yeah, maybe that was the little issue. Don't worry, I played MGS1 now, and I love it as much as the rest of the Metal Gear games. But Snake Eater was the one that made me fall in love with the entire series, because it's such a well-crafted video game up to every single detail. Hideo Kojima's brilliance shines through the entirety of this great adventure. The story is definitely one of Snake Eater's strongest points. US soldier Naked Snake has to rescue the creator of a powerful weapon called the Shagohod in the middle of the Cold War, when his mentor and mother figure, the boss, defects from their country and betrays him. Now, not only he has to save the world from the evil Russian bad guy Colonel Volgin, but also destroy the Shagohod and kill his master in the name of his country. A very simple plot at first hand, but trust me, it gets weirder and more complex as it goes along, with twists and turns everywhere and some of the most insane bosses in gaming history, including a guy who can control bees, a sniper that can literally dive of old age, and an angry astronaut with a flamethrower. Did I mention that Metal Gear is a crazy game series? Because I don't think I do that enough. The plot of Snake Eater, coupled with its great writing and memorable characters, really made me fall in love with this game. And chronologically, this is the first game in the Metal Gear timeline, so it's super accessible. Seriously, if you wanna get into the Metal Gear games, start with Snake Eater, you won't regret it. And that ending, oh boy, I shed the manliest of tears with it. I love emotional plots in my video games, and this is no exception. Far from it. I could easily stop right there, but I really should explain why I think Metal Gear Solid 3 is the closest to a perfect game I have ever played. So here's a list of reasons I made on why Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater is fucking awesome. The classic stealth gameplay of the franchise has been refined with a lot of new gadgets, weapons and unique features that never feel like gimmicks, including healing yourself from injuries or having to feed off from local wildlife. Disgusting, I know. Even if it's a linear game, you do have a bit of freedom on how to take down each enemy. And there's a few hidden and very clever alternatives to taking them down that only Hideo Kojima could have come up with them. The boss battles, like I said, are some of the most clever, creative, insane and fun I've ever faced in any video game. And if you know me, you know that means a lot. The music score is very beautiful, kudos to the composer. The atmosphere and attention to detail genuinely make you feel like you're in the 60s. The graphics look really good, and I personally believe that they still hold up to this day. And I just love this game. And if there's just one annoying flaw I have to point out, is the fact that the series' traditional eagle view camera doesn't really fit this type of adventure. But wait! they actually changed the camera into an over-the-shoulder view in the subsistent and HD version. Heyo! How can I say that Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater it's almost a perfect game? Because I really struggled to find a flaw in it, I'm serious! I am sure that somebody in the comments is going to mention one, but hey, I did say I don't think there's a perfect game, but it's the closest to being one for me. The story, the music, the graphics and even the gameplay are so unique and well made that they blend together into one of the best gaming experiences I ever had, and I always replay this game whenever I have the chance. Oh, and before I move on, I guess I should mention how I almost put Metal Gear Solid 4 Guns of the Patriots on here. I love that one almost as much as Snake Eater and you should definitely give both of these games a try, but MGS4 leaves a lot to be desired in the gameplay department. But still, the story is super good and it made me cry in more than one occasion, but maybe that's just because I am a whiny baby who tears up for everything. Oh, and insert a long, angry rant about Konami and how they ruined the franchise forever here. Look, I don't have the energy for that anymore. I just wish Kojima and company the best on their future projects. Death Stranding looks really promising and weird. Classic Kojima. The Crash Bandicoot series was one of the main reasons I began making videos for this channel. You see, back in the day, there were little to no videos centered around this beloved mascot on YouTube, so I felt like I had to do something about it. I am sure my fellow Crash fans hate me though, because every time I mention this franchise on this channel, I mainly focus just on Crash Twinsanity. I am so sorry. Don't get me wrong, I love the entire franchise. The original PS1 trilogy and Crash Team Racing are some of the most entertaining games I've ever played. But Twinsanity always stood out to me because it is that game, you know, my childhood game. A video game I played so many times since I was little that I know it like the back of my hand, and it still gives me tons of nostalgia to this day. Ah, those were the times. Crash Twinsanity was not the first video game I've ever played, it wasn't even the first Crash Bandicoot game I've ever played, but I tried it out for the first time when I was around 9 or 10 years old. I was just in the right spot for a game like this. It was the perfect time of my life to truly appreciate this title for what it is, to appreciate the gameplay, the characters, the humor, the world, and even the music. It really clicked with me ever since and has remained a personal favorite of mine for all these years, even if it has some blatant flaws. If you've never heard of Crash Twinsanity before, or you just never watched one of my videos, you may be wondering what the hell is the big deal I have with this game. For starters, Crash Twinsanity is one of the best Crash games made by another company that is not Naughty Dog. This time it was Traveler's Tales. Oh come on, I love Naughty Dog a lot, don't get me wrong, but there are some solid Crash games even after they left the franchise, so get over it. Twinsanity is a Crash Bandicoot game that actually tries a few new things that make it more unique from its predecessor. It has a more open world approach with hidden collectibles all around, it has smoother controls, and it has an insanely fun story. You see, a pair of parrots from another dimension threaten to destroy Crash and Cortex's world, so they are forced to team up in order to stop them. This obviously leads to a lot of unique gameplay segments with Crash, Crash and Cortex, or even Cortex alone, or even his niece, Nina Cortex. The level design is great and clever, and every place you visit is super memorable. The entire experience is just brimming with personality, mainly because it's such a pretty game to look at, with a lot of color in it. It feels like it could easily be a cartoon series. The characters look great, they are memorable, and even the dialogue of Crash Twinsanity is well written with a good dose of humor in it. It may not be the funniest video game ever, but for 9-year-old me, it was fucking hilarious back in the day. The impeccable voice acting helped the dialogue a lot too. The music in Crash Twinsanity is one of its strongest points, maybe even my favorite part of the entire game, because it's entirely a cappella. I feel like I said this way too many times on this channel in other videos, but I listen to it on a regular basis, and I still find it so catchy and memorable. If anything, Crash Twinsanity has one of the most original and clever video game soundtracks, and I often find myself humming these tunes like I am a Smooth McGroove or something. Of course, Crash Twinsanity has its flaws, it's full of glitches, and it's way too short, but those things never prevented me from truly enjoying this game. I try to replay Crash Twinsanity at least once every year, and I am still surprised by how well it holds up to this day. It may not be as objectively good as the PS1 trilogy, especially Crash 3, but it didn't need to be. It's just a colorful, clever, and creative 3D platformer that I recommend to everybody, no matter their age. Trust me, it's very fun. Since this is my last video, I wanted to say something about Crash Twinsanity that I never said before, and that's that I find it disappointing how many stuff they had to cut from this game. Seriously, look up the scrapped content from Crash Twinsanity and you will find that it was rushed to meet a deadline, which is a shame because some of these ideas were really solid and could have made the best Crash Bandicoot game ever. Oh well, I still love Crash Twinsanity for what it is, and I will keep playing it many times for the rest of my life. This is one that I keep very close to myself since I was a little kid. Now I just wish Crash Bandicoot came back from the dead after all these years. What's that? Finally! I've been here all this time waiting for you, my friend. It's beautiful. I freaking love Shadow of the Colossus. This game is like that cute girl that broke your heart. It's beautiful, it had a huge impact on my life, and it makes me cry every time I think about it. What, did I get too personal there? Nah, but seriously, this is one of the games that really changed a lot of things about me, and I do have a personal connection to it. No surprise there. But before I get into that, let me explain the basics of why Shadow of the Colossus is such a great video game, at least in my personal opinion. Shadow of the Colossus is truly a work of art, both in presentation and gameplay. This is a game centered just about defeating 16 different bosses. Each and every Colossus is unique in the way it looks and how you have to defeat it. Some battles are bad, others are just okay, but there are a lot of really good boss battles in here. And those that are really good, oh boy, they are just so big and epic. Taking these creatures down is not like defeating any regular boss from any other game, no. You actually have to climb through their bodies and hold on for dear life while you try to damage their weak spots. It's an amazing experience, like anything I've seen or played before it, and most of these bosses give me goosebumps when I face them to this very day. Avion, Phalanx, Hydrux and Malus are some of my favorite, but honestly, I enjoy almost all of the Colossus in this game. I recently replayed Shadow of the Colossus and I was surprised how well it holds up after all of these years. Yeah, it's far from perfect, the controls are clunky and the overworld is really empty, but every time you face each one of the Colossus, you just forget about all of those flaws because this is such a powerful experience. Of course, this sense of scale and epicness wouldn't be possible without the amazing music by Kou Otani, which is as beautiful as it is epic, and it may be one of my favorite video game soundtracks. The graphics of the game stand out as well, and I think they still look amazing more than 10 years after its release. And for a game centered around boss battles, I was surprised at how emotional the story of Shadow of the Colossus was. It starts out fairly simple, but like Metal Gear Solid 3, the ending is devastatingly depressing. It gets to me every time I watch it. So yes, amazing boss battles, beautiful art direction, fantastic music and an emotional storyline, Shadow of the Colossus has the recipe to be one of the best games of all time, and it truly is in my opinion. This is a game that will always have a special place in my heart. God bless Team Ico. I even tried out their previous game, Ico, last year, and I really enjoyed it as well. And you can bet your ass I will try to get The Last Guardian as soon as I get me a PS4. But at the end of the day, why do I have such a personal connection to this game? Well, there are three big impacts Shadow of the Colossus had on me. 1. It made me think that video games actually could be art. 2. It made me realize how much I love boss battles. And 3. It actually was the main reason I created this channel in the first place. Mind blowing, I know. The first 2 points explain themselves. Shadow of the Colossus was made in such an artistic way that is usually my go-to argument whenever I discuss if video games can be art with somebody else. I know some of you may disagree in that topic, but hey, that's just the way I see it. And yeah, I freaking adore boss battles, as I said in this channel like a quazillion times. Is that even a real number? And it was this game the one that made me realize how important boss battles are to me and to gaming in general, and that I wanted to dedicate the rest of my gaming life to finding more boss battles as amazing as the ones in this game and telling people about them, and I would say I succeeded with that, don't you think? But yes, I guess I had to explain how I began making video game countdowns and reviews on YouTube, and since this is my final video, I guess it was the most appropriate place to do so. You see, back in 2012, when I first played Shadow of the Colossus, I couldn't find any top 16 Shadow of the Colossus bosses list on YouTube. Everybody mentioned the game, of course, but I couldn't find anybody who actually sat down and ranked every Colossus from worst to best. So after watching a lot of video game countdowns, I figured out why not do it myself. So I did my top 16 Shadow of the Colossus bosses as my first countdown ever for YouTube. And it sucked major balls. I edited it with Movie Maker and recorded the lines with my cell phone. It was so awful that my friends made fun of me at school because of that shitty video. The version of that list that remains on my channel to this very day, it's actually a remake of that original version. And while I still think that it's a very outdated countdown, trust me, it's way better than the first version I made, which I already deleted from my channel. But regardless of how bad my original Shadow of the Colossus video was, it still was my first video game countdown I made for YouTube. And I really have to appreciate that because this channel, ObsidiusFan, really changed my life for the best in many ways. And it was all because of this game, Shadow of the Colossus. I know, saying all of that stuff about a single video game is cheesier than pizza, but I really do love Shadow of the Colossus for all of those reasons, and it did have that much of an impact on me. And if any of you have a problem with that, you can come and fight me, bro. I mean, you would most likely kick my ass, but hey, I still have Shadow of the Colossus with me, so ha! Mwah. I love you. Remember earlier when I said this list was in no particular order?
That's right, Major, you did!
I lied. Let me clear that out. While I couldn't really decide on the order of those other 4 games, I love them all equally, I did manage to pick what my absolute favorite video game of all time, and I decided to leave it for the end of the video, and surprise surprise, it's a Kingdom Hearts title. I was very tempted to put the entire franchise as a whole here in the final spot in one entire package. You all know how much I adore Square Enix's convoluted yet amazing crossover with Disney. And, fun fact, I didn't even play it when I was a kid like Crash Twinsanity, no. I first played Kingdom Hearts back in 2012 when I was already making videos for this channel, so you know this franchise is very good when it managed to become my favorite of all time that quickly. Like the other games on this list, it really clicked with me, mainly because back in the day I was looking for a video game series with a serious and emotional plot. I already played Pokémon Black and White, but it wasn't enough for me. Even with all of its shortcomings, the Kingdom Hearts franchise was my first experience of a really engaging plot, and yeah, it was the first game series that made me tear up multiple times. I became really attached to these stories, and the franchise means a lot to me now. This entire series is just so magical for me. Every game has something to offer that I find amazing, whether it's the nostalgic Disney worlds, the memorable characters, the fantastic musical scores by Shoko Shimomura, or the unique combat systems every game has. There's always something good in these titles, even in freaking Kingdom Hearts Recoded, for God's sake. Again, I could easily put every Kingdom Hearts games on here as my favorite, but I ultimately tried to decide on just one. Birth by Sleep was super close, and it still is one of my favorite video games, but at the end of the day, my final choice was, and it will always be, Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix. Indeed, the Final Mix version, because it improved on a lot of the things I didn't really like from the original release. Heck, I knew this edition was so much better that I looked for a copy way before the HD remix was announced. It was hard, but trust me, it was also so worth it. If you ever want to try out this game, look out for the Final Mix version. Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix, it's a sequel to Kingdom Hearts 1. Well, sort of, there's Chain of Memories in the middle. Let's not start with the confusing plot already. Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix tells the story of Sora after the events of KH1 and Chain of Memories. He's been asleep for over a year, and now the world needs his help. Not only Maleficent and the other Disney villains are back and controlling the Heartless, but there's also a new group of villains, the Organization 13. 13 nobodies who are looking to create Kingdom Hearts so they can finally get a heart for themselves. Sora will have to stop them while also trying to find out what happened to his friends and making new ones both from Disney movies and Final Fantasy games. This story starts off fairly simple, but it gets extremely convoluted by the end. Heck, I would say this is the first game in the Kingdom Hearts series that started off the confusing storylines that made them so infamous. But you know what? I don't care. Yeah, it took me a while to understand every single detail about it, but when I finally did, it was very worth it. You know, a plot is good when you seek out everything about it just to understand it to its fullest. This is exactly what a good sequel should be. The story has a bigger scale, the stakes are way higher, the Organization 13 are amazing villains with every single member being charismatic and memorable like Xemnas, Sigvar, Luxord or even Demyx, and they really make Sora question himself a lot. Speaking of which, Sora's character really develops from the annoying kid he was in the previous game. Now he's still cheerful, but he's way cooler, mature and more badass. Riku also goes through a very emotional arc as well. Heck, even Roxas and Axel have very interesting and emotional developments in this story. There's not a single character in this game that is not memorable. Everybody gets their chance to shine. Yes, one big flaw that Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix has is the tedious and boring prologue with Roxas in Twilight Town, but once you get through that bore fest, it really picks up. There's just so many memorable and emotional moments in the story of Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix. It has that perfect balance between humor, epicness and emotion, and it works just perfectly for me. I love it. But enough about that confusing storyline that everybody has already complained about. What about the gameplay? Well, let me tell you, Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix has one of the most kick-ass combat systems that this fat man-child has had the pleasure to play through. Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix forgot its roots as an action RPG and changed its combat so drastically that it feels more like a hack and slash with some RPG elements in it. And to be honest, I highly prefer this approach. The combat is so fluid and dynamic, and it's just extremely fun just to go around and kill random enemies. It also benefits from having a lot of versatile options you can play around with. Magic spells, crazy Disney summons, and even the always awesome drive forms that let you wield more than one Keyblade at the same time. The reaction commands and the limit breaks are other great additions to the combat that make each fight way more cinematic, flashy, and just more enjoyable to look at. All of these elements merge together in an amazing combat system that feels like something straight out of Dynasty Warriors. Oh wait, it kinda is! 1000 Heartless battle anyone? The meat of Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix is, however, the Disney worlds. Every one of them is different in one way or another in order to keep things fresh and interesting. And KH2 Final Mix is very nostalgic to me because it includes some of my favorite childhood movies, like Mulan, The Lion King, Beauty and the Beast, The Return of Hercules, Aladdin, and Nightmare Before Christmas. Heck, even Pirates of the Caribbean and Tron are thrown into the mix and they actually work quite well. Every Disney world feels unique and it actually makes you feel like you are inside your favorite Disney movies, with their great art style and music. Each one of them offers something new and creative. Some of them even have costume changes for Sora and his friends, and the gameplay is often mixed up in one way or another to keep things interesting. You have to fly the magic carpet in Agrabah, you turn into a lion in the Pride Lands, and you sing in Atlantica. I know a lot of people hate this level, but it's just so stupid that it's kind of a guilty pleasure for me. Alongside the sublime combat system and the fun Disney worlds,
the presentation is also a big part of why this game is such a magical experience. Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix has this colorful art style that makes you feel like you're playing a Disney movie, and I personally believe it still holds up very well to this day. And the music by Shoko Shimomura, oh boy, I mention music a lot on this list, but don't even get me started. She's truly my favorite video game composer of all time. I really enjoyed the music in the official release, but the orchestrated version from 2.5 HD remix is just so beautiful. Every song fits each moment perfectly, and I often find myself listening to these themes whenever I feel like it. There's epic music, there's emotional music, there's even music that sounds exactly like the soundtracks from these Disney movies. Hands down, my favorite video game soundtrack of all time. Alongside Birth by Sleep's soundtrack, but it's the same composer. But at the end of the day, what does the final mix version of Kingdom Hearts 2 has to offer that it made it my favorite video game of all time? Well, aside from improving on the mechanics and presentation of the original, it added a lot of new stuff. The post-game here is huge, including an entire new level and boss battles against every Organization 13 member. You can face every single one of them as many times as you want. The post-game content is way stronger in this edition, and you can keep playing for hours as you unlock more and more stuff. It's great and very replayable. Remember how I always say that I adore boss battles? Well, it's no coincidence that my favorite game has over 70 boss battles. Yes, I am not kidding. Between all the Heartless, data battles, absent silhouettes, Disney villains and more, Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix has around 70 boss battles in total. This is just so awesome. And you know what? They are all good boss battles. I struggle to think of a truly bad boss in this game. Yes, some are lackluster, but there's nothing as shitty as, say, the Lich Grave. KH2 Final Mix has some of the most epic, entertaining, innovative and creative boss battles in gaming history. Some of them feel gimmicky, yeah, but for Christ's sake, they still are so fun to play through. Some of my favorites include Twilight Thorn, the Ground Shaker, the Storm Rider, the Hydra, Axel, Soldin, Sigvar, Sykes, Marluxia, Section and even more. So many good boss battles in here. Special mentions to two particular boss battles though. Semnas, one of the longest, most epic and satisfying final bosses in video game history. This is how you properly do a final boss, and I can't wait to see the final boss of Kingdom Hearts 3. And the other mention is Roxas, which was just a cutscene in the original release, but is now a deeply challenging and emotional boss battle. It's up there with Xion as one of my favorites of all time due to the gameplay, the symbolism, and the emotion behind it. It's perfect. Oh, and let's not forget about the Lingering Wheel, a super hard optional boss which is, in my opinion, the most challenging boss battle in the entire franchise. It took me several tries and I had to master every single mechanic in the combat system, but at the end I managed to overcome what was possibly the biggest challenge of my entire life as a gamer. I know most people will say that they face even harder things, but keep in mind that not only I am not someone who tends to complete optional modes in games, but also that I suck at video games. A lot! So defeating the Lingering Wheel meant a lot to me because I had to put a lot of effort and actually go out of my comfort zone just so I could say with satisfaction, I beat the Lingering motherfucking Wheel. And any game that can have that effect on me means something. So yeah, Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix. I could keep talking about this game for hours, but I will just stop here. To conclude, it just has everything I love in a video game and even more. An engaging, emotional and interesting story with tons of memorable and likable characters, a smooth and improved combat system with lots of options to it that it always feels extremely entertaining, some of the most colorful and fun Disney levels, neat presentation, a beautiful soundtrack, and over 70 of the best video game boss battles ever made. If you want evidence of how much I love this game, I played through it over 7 different times. It may not sound like a lot, but considering that I am not someone who replays games very often, especially titles as long as this one, you know I have to love it a lot to replay it so many times. And every time I finish it and look at the ending and the credit sequence, I can't help but tear up a bit because of the amazing adventure I just went through. It's a game that managed to tug at my heartstrings in ways I didn't expect. At the end of the day, the most important thing about Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix is that it's extremely fun for me and I can always play it whenever I feel like it. Whenever I feel down, it will always cheer me up. I know this sounds super cheesy, but hey, this entire video was super cheesy and I do love me a great, fun and emotional video game. Almost a year ago, I made a video about the things I hate the most in the Kingdom Hearts series. In that video, I was not hesitant to admit that I wasn't hyped about Kingdom Hearts 2.8 or Unchained Keys because I believe they are unnecessary titles and that I think that Square Enix is doing a horrible job with the franchise, taking advantage of fans like me who hold this series close to their hearts. And while I still stand strongly by that, I'm always going to support Kingdom Hearts because I just love it too much. It's my favorite franchise in any type of media, video games or not, and you can bet I am extremely hyped for the upcoming Kingdom Hearts 3. Here's hoping it will be just as good as Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix, or even better, who knows, maybe in the future, Kingdom Hearts 3 will be my favorite video game of all time.
So yeah, Kingdom Hearts is my favorite franchise of course, and Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix is my absolute favorite video game of all time. I am deeply sorry if this last entry wasn't very funny, it didn't have many goofy skits in it, and yeah, it was kind of cheesy, but please, I really wanted to talk about a video game that means a lot to me in depth, so cut me some slack. So, I really hope you understand the connection I have with Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix, so I wanna hear what you think. What do you think of this game, and what is your absolute favorite video game? I am really curious because I am sure some of you have a similar connection to a game that I have with this one.
So this is it. Those are my 5 personal favorite video games of all time. And with that, my final video on this channel has come to an end. At the time of recording this, I have no idea how long this video was, but I really hope it was worth your time. I always had problems with the length of my list, but since this was my final one, I really wanted to go all out with it. And truth be told, I had a lot of fun making this list because I really enjoy going in depth about the games I enjoy the most. Thanks a lot for watching, heck, thanks a lot to everybody for watching my videos for the past 4 years. Making this channel was a decision that changed my life for the best. It helped me decide what I want to do with my future, and now I am actually studying a career to become a game and movie critic and journalist. I learned a lot about myself, and I even made a lot of new friends and came across a lot of new stuff and opened up my taste in gaming, film and animation. It was an amazing experience for me.
And seriously, I can't thank you all enough. Anybody who has supported my channel, no matter how small it was, seriously, thank you. My family, my parents, my siblings, my internet friends, including some fellow YouTubers who have worked with me, my real life friends, and of course, you, my fans, and everybody who has watched and enjoyed one of my videos. Seriously, I love you guys. This was an amazing journey for me, and I think I'm going to tear up.
I know that ObsidiusFan is a relatively small channel with only 3,000 subscribers, but trust me, each and every subscriber means a lot, so this was a big game changer for me. Leaving this channel after more than 4 years and over 50 countdowns and reviews was a very tough decision for me. I was originally going to make a bigger show for this final video, you know, maybe including my friends and some cringy dance number and all, but I realized that it was very unnecessary because it's not like I am dying or anything. I shouldn't make a big deal about this. By the way, keep in mind that I am just moving to a brand new channel entirely in Spanish, so if you know how to speak Spanish or you just wanna keep supporting me regardless of the language, click here to go to my new channel, JFL Studios. I hope you will enjoy all of the videos I will make over there. I am super excited about my future on YouTube, even if it's on another language. I hope all of you can understand my reasoning here. But don't unsubscribe just yet, I may come back to ObsidiusFan someday if there's a topic for a video I don't really feel like doing in Spanish. Like my thoughts on any future Godzilla films, or Kingdom Hearts 3, you know, stuff like that. So like I said, I shouldn't make a big deal about my final video, I just thought I had to make it just so all of you are aware of why I won't post content regularly on this channel anymore.
It's truly amazing what the love and passion for video games can do to a person's life. Anyways, this has been ObsidiusFan, and thanks a lot for watching, guys. I will see you guys next time, whenever that happens. So, this will be the final thing I say on this channel. I better say something meaningful that will stay in people's minds forever. This is going to be my legacy, so here I go. I really like tits.